Russian officials are threatening retaliation after one of the largest Ukrainian drone attacks on Moscow and the surrounding region. Moscow claims around 400 drones were launched towards the capital overnight, while Russia's defense ministry say 380 were intercepted across the country. Yet fires, damaged homes and injuries were reported in several parts of the Moscow region.
Zelensky needs to demonstrate to the West that he is capable of at least terrorism, but even that has come to nothing. 400 drones are an enormous armada capable of covering the entire sky, but our air defenses dismantled it. There will be a separate expression of gratitude for the attempt on the capital.
Moscow Mayor Sergei Lavrov said 85 drones were destroyed on their approach to the city, while most were intercepted further away. Damage was reported in Podolsk and Domodedovo district. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov claims Moscow accepted Donald Trump's proposals during last year's Alaska summit. He is now blaming Ukraine and its European partners for allegedly persuading Washington to abandon them. But the United States has publicly disputed Moscow's version, saying no formal agreement was reached in Anchorage.
We accepted Trump's proposals in Alaska. But Trump's European allies, and of course Mr. Zelensky himself, are trying to persuade him to move away from those proposals.
Lavrov said the main opponents for the Alaska initiative were Washington's European allies and President Zelensky personally. He claimed they were trying to pull Trump away from his own proposals and accused them of attempting to derail the peace process. According to Lavrov, European capitals and Kyiv are not interested in ending the fighting and continue to push the situation towards further escalation while ignoring what he described as potentially productive American initiative. Lavrov also made it clear that Russia does not intend to wait for outside powers to determine its future. He recalled that Putin had set a clear course. Moscow would continue working towards the objectives in so-called special military operation, regardless of what Russia describes as attempts at sabotage. Vladimir Putin has once again publicly thanked North Korea for sending its soldiers to fight in the Kursk region against Ukraine. What Moscow once tried to obscure is now presented as a strategic partnership. Russia's war against Ukraine is being sustained not only by Russian troops, but by years of weapons, ammunition, and manpower supplied by another dictatorship.
I would like to once again express my gratitude for the support of our special military operation and for the decision to send soldiers of the Korean People's Army to participate in the liberation of the Kursk region.
North Korea's foreign minister promised unconditional support for Russia, repeating Moscow's language about sovereignty and so-called root causes of the war. The irony is difficult to miss here. Russia invaded another country, occupied its territory, and now presents North Korean troops fighting on Russian soil as defenders of territorial integrity.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea will continue to unwaveringly support all of Russia's efforts aimed at upholding its sovereignty, security interests, and territorial integrity, and at eliminating the root causes of the crisis in Ukraine.
Russia spent several days stockpiling missiles before launching one of its heaviest ballistic attacks on Kyiv. The capital and surrounding region were the main targets. At least 6 people were killed across Ukraine. Dozens were wounded, while rescue teams continue working at damaged sites throughout the day.
Work is still ongoing in Kyiv in the areas affected by the Russian strikes. There were a lot of ballistic missiles. Kyiv and the region were a key target for the Russians. They had been preparing this attack for several days, accumulating missiles. The danger remains, and it must now be taken into account.
Ukraine says its air defense units destroyed 18 missiles and neutralized more than 100 drones. But the scale of the attack has once again exposed the shortage of interceptors capable of stopping ballistic missiles. Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine needs a steady supply of air defense ammunition, not emergency decisions after every deadly strike.
Our air defense forces and all those defending our skies managed to shoot down 18 missiles today and neutralize more than 100 drones. It is very important that our partners understand what is happening and that we need air defense missiles to protect lives literally every day.
The Kremlin is no longer just occupying Ukrainian territory. It is systematically replacing Ukrainians with the Russian settlers. Moscow has created an entire incentive system to encourage Russians to move into occupied regions. Double salaries, free land, and homes confiscated from Ukrainians. According to Ukraine's military intelligence, Russia plans to relocate another 130 Russians to Sevastopol alone. Kyiv said this is not reconstruction, but a deliberate policy of ethnic replacement and colonial expansion.
To encourage Russians to relocate to occupied Ukrainian territories, the Kremlin has created a system of financial incentives. Russian officials sent to the occupied regions receive double salaries, housing compensation of up to 7,000 rubles per day, and daily allowances of up to 8,000 rubles. Over a single month, a so-called Russian official can earn more than 470,000 rubles, over $5,000, more than 8 times the average salary in Russia.
Russians are increasingly returning to cash as Ukrainian strikes hit oil refineries, fuel shortages spread, and mobile internet services are repeatedly suspended. Since the beginning of the year, Russia's central bank has put the equivalent of around $19 billion in additional cash into circulation, the largest increase for this period outside the pandemic years. Experts at the media outlet iNews say this may point to growing distrust in the Russian economy and its digital systems.
It would be nice to think that this is part of a general crisis of confidence in the economy and in the systems that make it work. Russians are falling back on the things they believe they can still trust. Ukraine's campaign is successfully degrading the systems that keep Russia functioning. It is also bringing home to Russians the fact that the war launched by their leadership has consequences for them. It is no longer something that happens only to other people a long way away. Ukraine's goal of bringing the war home to Russians is actually beginning to succeed. But we are still a long way from the kind of domestic pressure that would force Putin to change his approach. Nobody can say exactly when that point will come.
Thousands of Ukrainians have taken to the streets of Kyiv for a 4th consecutive day following the dismissal of Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov. But this is not simply a protest in support of one politician. People are demanding that the government explain major wartime decisions, listen to society, and treat Ukrainians as participants in the country's defense, not merely as spectators.
We want normal decisions from the authorities because it is not the right time to dismiss a really good and effective head of the Ministry of Defense. He has shown real results. Dismissing someone who spoke openly about problems and treated society like adults is simply splitting the country from within. We are all here to win the war with Russia, not for someone else's ambitions to come first.
The protesters do not all have the same demands. Some want Fedorov reinstated. Others are calling for the removal of a Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky, an investigation into military spending, and wider changes in the defense and healthcare systems. What unites them is the demand for transparency, accountability, and a real dialogue with the authorities.
I came here because we were not heard during the first days of the protests. I want the president to hear us not only in words, but through action. We want the authorities to listen to us, to remove Syrsky, to investigate his decisions on the distribution of funds in the army, and to return the right people to the positions where they belong.
Fedorov was credited with the Accelerating Ukraine's drone program, introducing new technology into the military and confronting corruption inside the defense system. President Volodymyr Zelensky, at the same time, has asked Major General Yevhen Khmara to take over the minister's duties. Ukraine is strengthening its defense along the Belarusian border amid the threat of a possible new attack. Border guards are creating what they call a kill zone, using anti-tank ditches, several layers of a barbed wire, and rows of a concrete dragon's teeth. Special attention is also being paid to the Dnipro River Islands, where Ukrainian forces are monitoring activity from the Belarusian side.
This network of defensive structures is part of the large-scale fortifications being built along Ukraine's northern border. Defensive measures are also continuing on the Dnipro River Islands. The situation remains under the full control of Ukraine's defense forces.
Poland says security is no longer just about military spending. Warsaw is investing heavily in both defense and critical infrastructure, arguing that resilience depends on the ability to move troops, equipment, and people quickly across the country.
See Poland 15 years from now.
So we are still completing our strategic infrastructure, but by that we mean not just the highways. We are building a high-speed railway network, and we're now investing 4.8% of our GDP into defense. So by the end of the decade, we'll have an army that even if we are alone, I don't think Putin would touch.
Russia continues to target not only Ukrainian ports, but also civilian shipping in the Black Sea. The strike near Odessa killed sailors and once again threatened Ukraine's food exports. Ukraine describes it as a deliberate attack on international shipping and a global food security.
Another act of terrorism at sea. Russia has carried out a missile strike on a civilian vessel. Russian occupying forces struck the civilian bulk carrier Golden Leo with 3 Kh-59/Kh-69 cruise missiles. The vessel was sailing under the flag of Guinea-Bissau, was owned by Turkey, and at the time of the attack was leaving the combat zone with a cargo of grain. The strike hit the starboard side of the superstructure, and a fire broke out on board. 5 people were killed in the attack. The fate of another 5 crew members is unknown, and the search continues. This was another deliberate Russian strike on an unarmed civilian vessel under a foreign flag that posed no military threat. The attack is an act of terror against peaceful shipping and a gross violation of international humanitarian law.
Lukyanivka in Kyiv has become one of the most frequently attacked neighborhoods in the Ukrainian capital. Its market has been destroyed, buildings are repeatedly damaged, and the local metro station has been hit at least 8 times. Yet residents continue to reopen businesses, rebuild their homes, and stay in the district, even though many now say there is no truly safe place anywhere in the capital.
Actually, I don't think this attack will change anything, because a month ago, when we spoke about the fact that there are no safe places in Kyiv right now, we said that today they attack here, and tomorrow they could attack any other area. When you move from place to place, you never know which place will be attacked next. So it's a shame that it affected us today. But fortunately, at least our house didn't burn down. As far as I can see, we mostly only have damaged glass. And glass, I think, is the least you can lose in these attacks.
Life in Lukyanivka now means cutting hair inside buildings, scared by shrapnel, selling fruit beside the ruins of a burnt market, and moving theater performances underground. People clear away broken glass, repair what they can, and return to work. For many, continuing to live normally has become its own form of resistance.
If you look at other countries and then look at the situation here, it seems that the entirety of Ukraine has to sit in basements, dressed in black, and do nothing. But we live, we create, we make, we give birth, we are born. Just like any part of Ukraine, Lukyanivka is also being restored and continues to live.
That's all for now. Thank you for watching.